Welcome back to She Speaks Truth, the space where faith meets real womanhood, real marriage, and real growth. Today's episode hits deep because we're exposing one of the quietest truths inside Christian marriage. This message is for all my ladies, my female listeners. If the men want to listen too, that's fine, but this is geared more towards the women today. This episode is called Your Husband Wants This but Doesn't Know How to Say It. Now listen, some of you might be thinking, if he wants something, he should just say it. But spiritually, emotionally, and even biblically, it is more complex than that. Many husbands carry desires they don't know how to articulate, not because they don't care, but because their upbringing, personality, maybe past experiences train them to stay quiet. Yet these desires, they matter. And honoring them is part of honoring the covenant God joined together. And you can reference that in the book of Mark, chapter 10, verse 9. So let's get into what your husbands deeply want, but will rarely verbalize. I'm going to give you some verses through each section that we go through, and you can jot them down and reference back to them later if you would like. But the first thing is he wants emotional connection first. And we can reference 1 Peter chapter 3, verse 7. And we can also reference Ephesians chapter 5, verse 33. One of the biggest misunderstandings is thinking men want physical intimacy first. In reality, many husbands crave emotional connection. They just don't know how to ask for it. And 1 Peter chapter 3, verse 7 tells husbands to live with their wives in an understanding way. But that scripture cuts both ways. Understanding is mutual. Husbands are expected to understand their wives, and wives are called to respect their husbands. And it talks about that in Ephesians chapter 5, verse 33. A man wants to feel emotionally safe enough to share his heart. He wants to know he won't be belittled. He wants to feel like his inner world matters, not just what he provides. Simple questions open the door. Babe, how's your heart today? I see how hard you work and I appreciate you. And this aligns with Proverbs chapter 12, verse 25, which says, anxiety weighs down the heart, but a kind word cheers it up. Your words have power to unlock connection. And I want you to always keep that in the back of your mind. And after we establish that emotional connection, we need to establish the physical touch outside of the bedroom. And we are going to use these two verses for our reference on this section. Song of Solomon, chapter 1, verse 2, and Song of Solomon, chapter 7, verse 10. Many husbands don't know how to say this, but they long for non-sexual affection. Touch that says, I desire you, not just touch that leads to sex. Song of Solomon shows us that God is not shy about physical affection between husbands and wives. Let him kiss me with the kisses of his mouth. Chapter 1, verse 2 is not just poetic. It's a reminder that affection is holy and not optional. Touch builds connection. A hand on the shoulder, sitting close on the couch, a kiss in passing. Song of Solomon, chapter 7, verse 10 says, I belong to my beloved, and his desire is for me. Desire is designed to be expressed, not assumed. Your husband wants to feel that you enjoy him, not just need him. And then the third thing, number 3, he wants appreciation, not constant critiquing. And we're going to look at Proverbs chapter 14, verse 1, and Proverbs chapter 31, verse 11 and 12. Proverbs 14:1 says, a wise woman builds her house, but a foolish one tears it down with her own hands. How do many marriages get torn down? Not by major blowups, by daily criticism. Your husband wants appreciation, not idol worship, not fake compliments, just genuine acknowledgement. Men often shut down under repeated criticism because it hits their sense of identity and capability. Proverbs 31 paints a picture of a wife whose words and actions bring confidence to her husband. The heart of her husband safely trusts in her. That is what Proverbs 31:11 says. Trust grows when he feels seen, not scrutinized. Try phrases like, I notice what you do for this family, or thank you for carrying so much, or you handled that really well. A little appreciation can shift the entire atmosphere of the home. Number 4, he wants a safe space to be vulnerable. To me, this is one of the most important out of them. They're all important, but I tend to really keep this one in the back of my mind. And we're going to look at James 1, verse 19, and Proverbs chapter 18, verse 21. I'm going to be honest with you, ladies. A lot of men grew up without a model for emotional vulnerability. They weren't taught how to express fear or stress or hurt, so they suppress it. But in James chapter 1, verse 19, it gives a blueprint for intimacy and says, be quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to become angry. If he opens up even a little, that is sacred ground. Respond gently. Do not interrupt and do not dismiss him. Proverbs chapter 18, verse 21 reminds us death and life are in the power of the tongue. And you may not believe this or not. You may or may not. But your tone determines whether he opens up or shuts down. You need to ask questions like, what makes you feel most supported by me? Or what helps you feel close to me? Or you can say, I want you to understand. Can you help me learn your heart better? This isn't about making him emotional. It's about making him safe. Next, he wants to be desired, not just needed. And we're going to look at Song of Solomon, chapter 2, verse 16, and then 1 Corinthians chapter 7, verses 3 through 5. Many wives need their husbands, but they don't pursue them. And there's a big difference, ladies. A big difference. Men are silent about this, but it cuts so deep. They want to feel chosen, actively, intentionally, passionately, not just needed to fix something or to carry something. Song of Solomon, chapter 2, verse 16 says, my beloved is mine and I am his. There's mutual desire, not one-sided effort. And in 1 Corinthians chapter 7, verses 3 and 4, Paul teaches mutual pursuit and mutual affection. Not just a man pursuing his wife, but also the wife pursuing her husband. So when you say things like, you look good today, or I want you tonight, or I love when you touch me, you awaken something in him that strengthens the marriage on every level. Desire is a kingdom principle, not a worldly one. Number 6, he wants love in his language. Did you hear that? He wants love in his language. We're going to look at Philippians chapter 2, verse 4. Every husband loves differently and receives love differently. Words, touch, time, acts of service, gifts. Philippians chapter 2, verse 4 says, let each of you look not only to his own interest, but also to the interest of others. This includes emotional interests. Pay attention to how he expresses love, because that's usually his unspoken request. If he fixes things, acts of service might be his language. If he's touchy, it could be physical affection. If he compliments you often, words matter to him. The language you neglect becomes the need he buries. Do you understand? Don't neglect what he needs. And let's bring it all together. And we can look at Romans chapter 12, verse 10 And then Ephesians chapter 4, verses 2 and 3. And here's the heart of this whole episode. Your husband wants connection, affirmation, affection, and emotional safety. But he may not know how to say it. He may simply just not know how to tell you. And Romans chapter 12, verse 10 tells us to outdo one another in showing honor. When both spouses live like this, intimacy thrives. So when both spouses try to outdo one another in showing honor, your intimacy will thrive. And then in Ephesians chapter 4, verses 2 and 3, calls us to be completely humble and gentle, making every effort to keep the unity of the Spirit through the bond of peace. Unity doesn't happen by accident. Intimacy doesn't grow from silence. Connection doesn't appear out of thin air. When you show tenderness instead of criticism, curiosity instead of assumptions, affection instead of distance, affirmation instead of silence, you create a marriage that reflects Christ, sacrificial, connected, and alive. Your husband wants deeper intimacy with you, emotionally, spiritually, physically. He just may not have the language to ask for it, but he feels it. He longs for it. And he responds powerfully when he receives it. If this episode blessed you, share it with another wife who wants to strengthen her marriage God's way. Remember, intimacy grows where honor, gentleness, and grace are present. This is She Speaks Truth, where we empower wives to love boldly, grow spiritually, and build marriages that thrive. Until next time, ladies, God bless.